Shalom Akim, Kahalayim La, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Rachakudash. Double honors to the great Muslim apostles, and Thadia Shah for the strength and order to make this video. Yaratazar, you find this video edifying and also exhorting as well. But as I named it, in fact, let me read the title because just to get more accurately, I named it Mother Babylon Has Weakening Systems. And this is really evidence of the flaws or the flawed systems that Esau would have. Even the MOTB as well, even that system as well will be flawed. Of course, it will be seen as how do you call it, impenetrable, but it is flawed by its technology in itself. The only reason why it would be so-called impenetrable is because there will be punishments for those who try to get a backhanded way, into manipulating the system, trying to make your so-called darn chip to be what's the word? Well, to pretty much put yourself out of the database, man, which is part of the AI data, not the AI. Well, yes, the AI data centers to analyze people's profiles, but also not just that. The point is, anyone who tries to tamper with Esau's technology in that time, which we're in those times, it's about having the right event to trigger the enforcement of this MOTB, the Mark of the Beast system. But nevertheless of that, anyone, you want to try and tamper it, as you can see in these dystopian movies as well, will be practically outlawed. But nevertheless, this is just one example here, as you can see. Teenagers, you had the TfL system, Transport for London system. So we'll go and get into it. But in that time anyways, with Esau's, just with the normal day-to-day use, the software updates, because certain software updates when it comes to apps that Esau has, is because of certain bugs that are discovered, and then they need to get patched, hence why they need to have software updates, or if they're just adding a new feature, that in itself shows the flaws of an Esau system, and you will have a lot of them when it comes to the MOTB as well. The fact that scar tissue is going to be formed around the chip, that's going to be something too. But again, that's not in Esau's control. That's how the Most High is going to have it in his program. Noisome and grievous sore, as it says in Revelation 16, verse 1-2. But let's focus on this for now, and then I'm gonna get some precepts.
This is the moment Owen Flowers is.
So as the title goes, how teenagers carried out massive hack on London's transport system, which was July, man. So let's see, by ITV News. So I'm just gonna play a little bit, and then you can watch the rest.
This is the moment Owen Flowers is arrested for a multi-million-pound cyber attack orchestrated from his bedroom. At the time of his arrest, he is just 17 years old. And this is his co-conspirator, Talha Joubert. He's just 18 years old here. This is the story of how two teenagers hacked Transport for London's computer systems.
Two young boys that have got talent and potentially a brighter future have ended up going down such a serious criminal pathway.
Cost the company tens of millions of pounds.
Your actions were primarily motivated by selfish bravado.
And how they were eventually caught. Owen Flowers and Talha Joubert have been described as computer-obsessed loners, both known to spend hours playing video games in their bedrooms. But it was also from those rooms that the two teenagers carried out highly sophisticated cyber attacks. They hacked into the systems of two major American healthcare providers and made millions of pounds in stolen and ransomed cryptocurrency. The pair were part of the notorious Scattered Spider.
That's why in spite of really, cryptocurrency, Esau is allowing it because of the fact that, it does go hand in hand with his system when it comes to digital currencies. The only difference is that it's decentralized, which of course that's a whole other explanation, man. But with the CBDCs, that's why they call it centralized banking digital currencies. EAST was able to keep watch of it. But decentralized, there's a bit more, I guess you could say, so-called privacy with it. But again, that's a topic in itself. But nevertheless, criminals use it, and that's why people thought, okay, yeah, this is like the next thing, the next form of freedom. But in the time to come, it will just be CBDCs. There won't really be any truly decentralized cryptocurrencies. EAST was going to have a watch on everything, every single transaction. That's really it. The same way with the banks now, but even with more control over the currency. For example, currency that expires if you don't use it by a certain date. Now that will be truly dystopian. So anyways, let's continue.
An international network of young English-speaking hackers linked healthcare providers and made millions of pounds in stolen and ransomed cryptocurrency. The pair were part of the notorious Scattered Spider, an international network of young English-speaking hackers linked to recent cyber attacks on Marks and Spencer and Jaguar Land Rover.
Bro, I'm in the elevator. Cool. Listen, call you after I sign the offer. Sweetheart, you working here?
Cyber attacks on Marks and Spencer and Jaguar Land Rover.
So these lot, they're high level, man. They've hacked healthcare systems from America, and also, even companies over here in the UK as well. M&S and Land Rover too. And I believe you've probably heard of some hacks from other car manufacturers in the past few years too, man. So it just shows. This act in itself just shows the vulnerabilities in EAST's system, because that's really it. Everything is connected to a network of some kind, and data is stored in a database. If there's a back door within the network or within the database, that's people's data already collected by an individual that ought not to have it. And of course, if the people who develop these systems are lazy when it comes to ensuring that there aren't any back doors, then of course hacks like these are going to happen.
So Scattered Spider is broadly considered a loose online criminal collective. So we can't define it as much as we would a normal organised crime group, and in part that's because of the anonymity that these people hide behind. We see them coming and going, interconnecting with each other, but ultimately with a common goal of cybercriminality, disruption, harm, and sometimes economic reward as well.
In August 2024, Joubert and Flowers tricked a phone help desk worker into resetting the password of a TfL worker they were impersonating. That's when they gained access to the Transport Network's online systems, and with it, the data of as many as 10 million TfL customers.
They had
Let me hear that again.
A worker they were impersonating.
Criminality, disruption, harm, and sometimes economic reward as well.
In August 2024, Joubert and Flowers tricked a phone help desk worker into resetting the password of a TfL worker they were impersonating. That's when they gained access to the Transport Network's online systems, and with it, the data of as many as 10 million TfL customers.
They had the means and the potential to bring London to a halt.
So yeah, they use some kind of, I believe, social engineering is probably more so physical, but it can be done digitally as well, I guess, with how they just did it. But essentially, of course, them trying to deceive the actual worker, to resetting their password. And of course, just from resetting their password, not to get into the technicals, but, if hackers really want to get into a system, all they need to do is just put a keylogger on that TfL worker's laptop, and then they got the password straight away. Which is just, a keylogger is just a tool that you use, to know what keystrokes. Pretty much as you're typing, imagine someone else being able to watch you, remotely. That's basically what keylogger allows. So probably something along those lines they used, but that's like a plain level. That's a plain level. So because these are quite advanced from the sound of things. Nevertheless, just something simple as that. Again, as I said, social engineering tends to be a technique used in order to gain access through a person that's already a part of the organization, so that, the hackers can, again, gain access to data or disrupt the network or whatever intention that they got to do.
And when you think about the severity of that, not just in terms of our daily lives, but the subsequent economic impact and then the potential wider risk to things like health and well-being, I mean, it could have been truly a catastrophic incident.
The company then had to log out all staff and disconnect their systems, which disrupted services like Dial-A-Ride, which is used by vulnerable and disabled passengers. The prosecution told court the hackers held the keys to the kingdom and could have caused severe disruption across the network if they hadn't been stopped. Transport for London estimates the hack cost them around £29 million.
See, that's the thing, man. You know, with eSource system is hackable. Always know that there's always going to be some kind of a backdoor, you know, which will allow for, hackers to be able to get into the systems that they think, oh, they're secure and whatnot. That's why people are saying the digital ID thing, you know, it ain't secure, ain't nothing going to happen with that. Because if that gets hacked, finito. Details of people just out there on the internet. This is referring to Mother Babylon. Because of course the title of the chapter says prophecy against Babylon. But I'm going to get to the point because we know Babylon's going to fall. But this is talking about Mother Babylon. It says, your mother, which again, when you think about it, how was America created? Of course, part of the British coming over to Americas to establish settlements. And then from there, you know, the British citizens that were established in America, they stayed there and essentially, you know, from there, and simplistically speaking, you know, the nation grew and became Babylon. So Babylon got revived again, which really is just Rome, you know, being revived into, you know, so-called America. But, you know, it's from Britain, as Britain is the mother of Babylon, of America. Jeremiah 50:12, your mother shall be sore confounded. She that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. So of course Babylon will get its judgment nevertheless, man. And even in spite of that as well, the reason why I got that was just to establish the fact that the British are the so-called United Kingdom is the mother of Babylon, because that's how Babylon was created, you know, the infancy stages. So anyways, let me get this now. This is Jeremiah 49:16, that terribleness, you know, whatever power that he has as well, you know, in order to put fear within the people. It says that terribleness hath deceived thee, and pride of thine heart, you know, with his military might, his religious influence, and of course his financial base as well over here in the UK and London. You know, he can get pretty prideful because he has the three unclean frogs. Again, the military base in America, you know, the Pentagon, and the religious influence, the Vatican City, and of course the financial influence, which is over here in London, you know, UK. So it says that terribleness hath deceived thee, and the pride of thine heart, O thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, that holdest the height of the hill, though thou shouldest make thy nest as high as the eagle. And he's going to achieve that with his technology, with his Mark of the Beast system, them chip implants, the AI data centers. Everything comes together, the Internet of Things, or rather the Internet of Bodies. So though thou shouldest make thy nest as high as the eagle, I will bring thee down from thence, saith the Lord Yahweh. And of course, these vulnerabilities are a major sign, because the most I could have a hack where they can't even trace it back to who did it. Imagine, you know, Yahweh Shimshai could have, you know, a major hack happen where they can't trace it back to who did it. Imagine, he'll be confounded.
The company then had to log out all staff and disconnect their systems, which disrupted services.
Things like health and well-being, I mean, it could have been truly a catastrophic incident.
The company then had to log out all staff and disconnect their systems, which disrupted services like Dial-A-Ride, which is used by vulnerable and disabled passengers. The prosecution told court the hackers held the keys to the kingdom and could have caused severe disruption across the network if they hadn't been stopped. Transport for London estimates the hack cost them around £29 million.
Figures of up to £56 billion of potential damage have been mooted by the prosecution in the event that you'd gone on effectively to close the transport network. But this is a highly speculative exercise.
So, how were they caught? Well, believe it or not, by a takeaway. Joubert ordered food online using delivery gift vouchers that he bought with a cryptocurrency wallet. That wallet was on the same server that he and other hackers had used to store millions of pounds of cryptocurrency that major companies they'd held to ransom had paid them. That trail led officers to the East London flat where Joubert lived with his parents. Then, when the National Crime Agency seized Owen Flowers' laptop at his home in Walsall, they found Talha Joubert had live-streamed the TfL hack while the pair were carrying it out. The video of that broadcast was found on Flowers' computer.
Now, of course, that was just one thing. That was like 2 slip-ups. I would even say the first one was a slip-up, but the second one was just, it was more so stupid. It was stupid to do. Nevertheless, not I'm saying, not that I'm pushing what they're doing as right, but it was stupid. How are you gonna live stream a hack? That's why the judge said it was done with selfish bravado, which is just, you're just doing it to just show off essentially. That's what it is. To just darn show off. But yeah, that's how I imagine just from ordering food, Esau just managed to trace the location of one of the hackers. Joubert, I believe, was the other one.
Flowers sat in the dock wearing a blue sweatshirt. Joubert was wearing a suit. The judge said the pair were motivated by selfish bravado and sentenced.
You see, selfish bravado just to show off, man. If they didn't want to show off, they probably would have gotten away with it and then, it would have been raps. But nevertheless, the job was done. It was their lot to get caught. But it's just to show the vulnerability of Esau's system.
Both to 5.5 years in prison in what authorities have called the largest criminal prosecution of cyber offenders in UK history.
Ultimately, there's a sad reality there that 2 young boys that have got talent and potentially a brighter future have ended up going down such a serious criminal pathway. Trying to identify an online offender is hard. It's not as straightforward perhaps as picking up blood from a burglary, which is what you might see in the physical world. But I think what this does demonstrate in the online world is that law enforcement can identify you, we will pursue you, and ultimately will bring you to justice.
During the attack,
That's really it, man. That's really it. So Esau's just getting more and more tight in terms of his ability to track and really obtain data. It's gonna be harder and harder to slip up or make I wouldn't consider this one a mistake, but you can't slip up in Esau's system. He's gonna be watching over everything, even considering self-checkout over here in the UK. I believe America got in certain stores as well. Maybe your Targets over there, maybe your Walmarts. But over here in the UK, Sainsbury's, Aldi, Morrison's, Tesco. They have those self-checkout cameras as well, which they could be using that as a way to train AI too, because that's data in itself. Anything that's used to obtain information, such as your face and your identity, could be training AI to for facial recognition as well, and for other things as well, such as you speaking. They're just there on the recording on the system now. So it goes deep, man. It goes deep. Psalm 64 verse 6 talking about he does a diligent search. So yeah, let me wrap up with another precept then. That's it. This is Isaiah 31:1. Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help and stay on horses and trust in chariots, because they are many, and in the horsemen, because they are very strong. But they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek the Lord, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua. So of course, really focusing on the Israelites, they're the ones who are trusting in Egypt, in Esau's system. From that hack alone, that really Esau can't be trusted. That's the thing. And there'll be more and more hacks and more incidents like this to show that, you can't just trust in your so-called governments, man. You know, these are pretty much are the real life the real life hackers of Watch Dogs Legion, because the Watch Dogs Legion is just a game that's based on hackers, but in the UK. You know, the trailer was quite cool though, but it was a reference to future London, which really we're heading towards that as well. And funnily enough, certain buses be looking that was in the game actually look like actually predicted, you know, how the buses look like nowadays as well, of course, with the new electric ones. But yeah, it's all connected to the system, man. EVs, everything being hackable. Really, EVs just makes the cars more hackable nowadays. The old cars, they were hackable, but the EVs, they just make it more hackable. It was just harder with the older ones. So anyways, I'll leave it at that. It says, woe to them that go down to Egypt for help. So really, more and more so, our reliance on Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, you know, ought to be stronger. You know, hence why we pray, hence why we fast, hence why we seek that guidance and protection from Yahweh Hashem Yahushua day to day. Because Esau, again, as the scripture says, never trust thine enemy. Because if you trust in your government, you're going to realize why you should have never trusted them. And the Most High will make that clear. All right, so I'll leave at that. You know, messages already been sent here. The systems are vulnerable and they're weakening severely. So yeah, Shalom, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, Barakatham.